Then God instructed the people as follows: I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from slavery in Egypt. Do not worship any other gods besides me. Do not make idols of any kind, whether in the shape of birds, or animals, or fish. You must never worship or bow down to them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, who will not share your affection with any other God. I do not leave unpunished the sins of those who hate me, but I punish the children for the sins of their parents to the third and fourth generations. But I lavish my love on those who love me and obey my commands, even for 1,000 generations. Do not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days a week are set apart for your daily duties and regular work. But the seventh day is a day of rest, dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any kind of work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in them. Then he rested on the seventh day. This is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Okay, so you've just heard the first five of the Ten Commandments. And I want to establish right off the bat that it is very important as Christians that we study and still uphold the Ten Commandments today, even though we're not under the old law. The Ten Commandments were a precursor to the more specific laws that God would give to his chosen people, the Israelites, which would be later known as the Law of Moses. Due to the incredible sacrifice of Jesus, he actually fulfills the Law of Moses by offering his life in exchange for our sins. So we are no longer under those old laws. Colossians 2:16 and 17 will explain that in more detail for you. However, with the Ten Commandments being the first law that God gives, it is really important that we still uphold those standards. Let's start with the first commandment, where God tells us, do not worship any other gods besides me. Now, this is God establishing that he is the only God, not that there are other gods. You see, in Genesis, God tells us that when he was creating the heavens and the earth, that the earth was a void mass with his presence hovering over the top. Darkness all around. There was no other presence, no other being around but God. So, if there were other gods, that would mean that God created those gods, and that just simply does not happen. God goes on to say that he is a jealous God. And in this context, the word jealous means fiercely protective or vigilant of one's rights or possessions. So this is telling us that God desires for us to be his. But the beautiful thing about God is he gives us choice. He gives us free will. So we have to choose to be God's. And if we do make that decision, if we do make that choice, if we are Christians or call ourselves Christians, then we cannot have any other gods, anyone above God. The second commandment tells us, do not make idols of any kind. We cannot make idols of anything on earth, and we cannot make idols of anything in heaven. That's right. We can't even make an idol of God himself. The reason for this is God is not a physical God. He is a spiritual God. So when we worship God, we worship his spirit. We do not need to create anything of his likeness, an image to worship, because he is spiritual. The word idol is oftentimes used and abused. There's even a long-running TV show called American Idol, where contestants will compete in a singing competition to become the next idol. So the next famous singer or famous performer. And not only the word idol being misused, but the word icon being misused as well. Famous athletes or celebrities tend to get this title of an icon if they've been in the business for a long period of time. But the word icon and the word idol are essentially the same. You see, the Greek meaning of icon is statue or likeness image. So again, essentially the same thing as what idol is. So by referring to these people as idols and referring to these people as icons, and oftentimes creating images of these people, famous sports stars and famous celebrities, some of them have statues that have been created of them. They're in violation of not just the second commandment, but also the first as well. This next commandment we've gotten real casual with, and that is we should not take the Lord's name in vain. What that translates out to is we should not be misusing the name God, and we should not be misusing the name Jesus. But not only are these names being thrown around casually, they're also being placed in when using offensive language or vulgar language. They're being used in profanity. God tells us that he will not allow people who misuse his name to go unpunished. Okay, this next commandment, the fourth commandment, requires additional explanation. So the commandment says that we should remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Now, this commandment was given under the old law. God is speaking to his chosen people, the Israelites. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just guess that the vast majority of us that are watching are not of Israeli descent. And that's okay, because of the incredible sacrifice that Jesus giving his life for ours, we are all under the same family of Christianity. The Sabbath law was to be no work of any kind for that seventh day. And this is in regards to God creating the heavens and the earth for 6 days and then resting on the seventh. Jesus, however, goes on to tell us that the Sabbath day was created for man, not man for the Sabbath day. And essentially what that means is God is showing us that we deserve rest. Even though we work so hard to maintain a living, maintain our lives, we deserve a break. We deserve rest. And also to remember all of creation that God has, and all of the good things that God has done for us. So the vast majority of people, when we think of the Sabbath day, would think of Sunday, which is when we dedicate our time to church and we dedicate our time to God. So we should be doing those things still. We should be taking time out for God to remember the good things that he has done for us. And we should be gathering with like-minded people to do so as well. The final of the 5 commandments that we're going to go over today is honor thy father and mother. And I know this one can be difficult for some people because maybe they just don't know who their parents are, or maybe one or both of their parents have been absent throughout their lives. But the goal of Christianity is to always be humble, to always show respect, and to always be in a position of servitude. The respect part is very, very important, especially when it comes to those that have brought us into the world, with the figurative hand of God as well, of course. But they still had to play their part in getting us here. So we have to show them respect, just as we would like to be treated with respect as well. In China, they actually have a law that when your parents get to a certain age, that you are required by law to visit them regularly. Now, of course, here in the United States, we don't have such a law, but you can see how much of an emphasis that it is in their culture to have respect for their parents. We should also have that type of respect for our parents because God commands it. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the first 5 of the 10 Commandments. We will resume next time going over the final 5 commandments. God bless.